You can remember many unhappy incidents in your life which seem to be the cause of your troubles. As you look back on these moments of sadness, mental anguish, and misfortune, some can seem so terrible that they must be the cause of your aberrations.
Just get out of here, man.
But these conscious-level experiences are actually only guideposts leading toward the hidden incidents that are the actual source of the trouble. Engrams. An engram contains physical pain. It lies hidden below your level of awareness. And it can lie there, dormant, for a very long time. In other words, it won't have any effect on you until it becomes activated. So what causes this activation? Well, let's take a look at a fish who receives an engram. One day he happens to swim into salty yellow water that tastes of iron. He's just taken a mouthful of shrimp when a bigger fish attacks him and injures his tail. The shallow salty water, the taste of iron, the shrimp, and the pain in his tail are all perceptions recorded in this engram. To his reactive mind, every one of these perceptions is now equal to every other one. In other words, the shallow water equals an iron taste, equals yellow water, equals shrimp in mouth, which equals a pain in his tail. Any one of these perceptions equals any other. This engram is now stored dormant in his reactive mind. It will take a similar conscious level experience to stir that engram up. He heals his tail and goes on about his affairs. But one day he's swimming in similar salty waters that taste of iron when he's rushed at by a larger fish and gets his tail bumped. This time he's not hurt, just bumped. But something has happened. There were enough perceptions in his current environment that were similar to the perceptions in his engram to cause his reactive mind to activate that dormant engram. This is called a key-in. The term key-in is taken from electronics. A key is a device that opens or closes an electronic circuit. So when we say an engram has keyed in, we mean it has been activated and thrown into circuit. It's now hooked up to the operating machinery of his body without his control, ready to be very easily restimulated anytime any part of it appears in his environment. The next time the fish swims into shallow salty water, he begins to feel nervous. He knows something is wrong in the environment, but he doesn't know what. The shallow salty water has restimulated the original engram. When the water becomes yellow, he begins to get a small pain in his tail where he was injured in the engram. His reactive mind is using the warning of pain to force him to swim away before he gets hurt. But he swims on. Suddenly, he sees some shrimp, and the pain in his tail gets stronger, and away he goes in a flash. Now, no fish was after him, but something was telling him he was in a dangerous place. In a fish, this reactive behavior is a survival activity of a sort and may serve a purpose. But in a human being, this survival mechanism has long outlived its usefulness, but it is still there. Let's see how this applies to a woman who has a cooking accident.
I better get my salad.
Yeah, please do.
This incident, containing pain and partial unconsciousness, is an engram. Its contents include the sound of the running faucet, the sight of the spilled pot lying on the floor, the pain of the burn on her hand, as well as the statements her friend made, including, "Stay right there,"
Stay right there, okay? I'm gonna call 911.
and "Look at me."
Look at me, stay right there.
All of these perceptions and more are now recorded into this woman's reactive mind, where it will remain dormant until something keys it in. At a later date, this woman may be a little tired or worried or under stress or in some way analytically less alert. If her present environment contains enough similarities to the elements found in the dormant engram, it will key in that engram without her knowing it. The recording will play back, and she'll dramatize the same words, thoughts, and emotions that the engram contains.
Are you okay? Stay right there. Look at me. I told you not to play in the kitchen. You can get hurt in here. Go to your room. Now!
She may even feel some pain in her hands where she was burned before. The things in her environment now, like the kitchen, the pot of water falling, and the faucet running, are restimulators. They're similar enough to the perceptions in her original engram to key it in. So even though this situation with her children is a conscious level experience, it gets its force from the engram which came before it. This engram can now be very easily restimulated. As her life continues, she'll encounter many more moments that contain similarities to that initial incident. Each of these moments will restimulate that original engram again to some degree. The amount of restimulation will depend on how many restimulators are in her environment.
So you know what I'm saying? I mean, she's 12 years old. What is she doing smoking? So I say, look at me.
Sue, look at me.
This restimulating incident is called a lock. She sees a pot of hot water and the same friend who was in her engram.
Perfect.
These perceptions are locked to the earlier incident of getting burned by boiling water.
Anyways, so it turns out
A lock is a moment of mental discomfort containing no physical pain and no great loss. It's an incident which is in conscious recall and which seems to be the reason a person is aberrated.
I'm just telling you because I know your daughter's friends with Tiffany and she should be careful.
This woman thinks she's worried about what her friend has told her in this lock experience, but she's actually feeling nervous because her earlier engram has been restimulated. A lock doesn't contain unconsciousness or a blow or a burn or impact. It may contain a feeling of pain or illness, but the lock isn't the source of that feeling. For example, you see an egg and you feel sick. This is a lock. The perceptions of seeing an egg and feeling sick are locked to the engram of getting sick from eating an egg. A lock seems to be the reason you're aberrated.
Who do you think you are?
Here's another example.
Touch me.
This woman's boyfriend choked her, slapped her, and then left her. There was both pain and unconsciousness present at the time, so the incident was recorded in her reactive mind as an engram. Years later, in a different relationship, she has a similar argument with her new boyfriend.
Seriously, we're over there like every other weekend, and if she's not bad enough, her new boyfriend, what's his name?
They're your friends too.
I don't want to argue about this again. I'm out of here.
But this incident contains no physical pain, just mental anguish. It's a lock, a conscious level experience that gets its force from the engram it is locked to. It's restimulated the earlier engram, but she doesn't know that.
Baby,
Because the man left her in the original incident, she irrationally thinks the new boyfriend will leave her too. Her aberration appears to be caused by this new argument, the lock, but it's actually caused by the engram lying beneath it. Throughout your existence, you'll experience many incidents which have similar content. For while this woman's injury was most certainly an engram, she could have experienced earlier engrams and locks that were somehow similar to that one. This series of similar engrams and locks is called a chain. As you've seen, the incidents forming a chain could contain the same kind of illness or injury, or the same words and phrases, the same person, or any similar perceptions within the incidents. There's no telling how many chains a person has, and each chain can have hundreds of locks and engrams extending far back in time. At the very bottom of every chain is the basic or first engram on the chain. No engram will lift if the basic engram of that chain hasn't lifted. Therefore, in auditing, the basic engram of the chain is the goal. The earlier the engram is, the easier it is to reduce. Later engrams contain their own force plus the force of all the similar previous engrams. So any incident that doesn't reduce always has a similar incident earlier on its chain.
Starts to strangle me. And then he smacks me and I fall down.
Therefore, if an incident doesn't reduce after many recountings, ask, is there an earlier incident like this?
Is there an earlier incident like this?
Oh, yes, there is.
Very good. Begin at the beginning and recount it.
I'm 3 years old, and my dad is spanking me.
Run that earlier incident just as you would any incident.
Pushes me against the wall.
And if that one doesn't reduce after several recountings, find an even earlier one.
Okay. Is there an earlier incident like this?
I'm in this dark place, and I get this hit, and my whole body is moving.
The basic on the chain is always your goal. Once that has been lifted, the later incidents on that chain can then be easily reduced or erased if necessary. And all its locks will automatically discharge and vanish the moment the engram holding them is erased.
Just realized. That's why I'm afraid of the
So, the conscious level experiences that you think are causing your problems are at best only guideposts leading toward the actual trouble. The earlier hidden engrams that are the real source of aberration.
I can't believe it. That's so funny.
Key-ins and locks are first discussed in the chapter The Reactive Mind. The chapter entitled Keying in the Engram will take a deeper look at this subject and give you some examples of engrams being keyed in.